So as you can see, I've had to change my venue a little bit. Things are getting hectic at my house, and there's not as much private time to make videos. I wanted to make a video last week about my first appointment where we went over what I described as the bookends, and we didn't go into imaginal therapy. What we talked about kind of the experience a little bit and touched on it in preparation for imaginal therapy. But things got kind of hectic. So this video, I'm going to talk about what that was like and the week after, and then my next video will be my response to the imaginal therapy, which happened a couple days ago. So everything went pretty much as described by my therapist. We talked about all the events leading up to the scary event and the events directly afterwards when I knew I was safe. Up until now, I have not talked about I think I've mentioned one of my traumatic events. I haven't really revealed a lot of that. And part of it is actually to protect the people around me, because my PTSD specifically came from a lot of childhood abuse and traumatic things in my childhood where there were people who were close to me who were there and involved. And that's as far as I'm going to go on that. It's not necessarily because I'm too afraid to share all my personal details. I mean, I'm making a YouTube video about going through PTSD treatment, so clearly I have no shame. So I'm going to tell you what my worst memory that we chose to do first, of course, because that's the order that my therapist told me we had to do it in. This is the event that I rated as hardest to talk about. I don't think that it was the most damaging experience. It's something that happened when I was older. I'd already had PTSD for a very long time. In fact, I almost think that it's something that came out of me already being damaged and already hurting a lot. I was sexually assaulted when I was 16. I was at a party and I was looking for something to kill the pain. I had recently discovered alcohol and partying, and I was already a very hurting young woman looking for answers and looking for comfort. I suppose you could use the cliche that I was looking for love in all the wrong places. Although, I wouldn't characterize myself at this time as throwing myself at men. I went there to drink. I did not go there to have sex. I went there with a friend who had a boyfriend, and they went off and did their own thing and left me kind of alone. And I found myself in some guy's car, and I was drunk. And I'd never had sex before. I did not understand what was happening to me. It was a very confusing, traumatic, and excruciatingly physically painful event for me. My intention was not to have sex that night. I said no. I struggled. I was ignored, at least for a while. I think that for me, I did not have a really, I didn't have a really big emotional response to this right away. And I always thought there was something wrong with that. I didn't even really see myself as having been raped at first. I didn't really understand. I don't know. I felt very confused, and I wasn't even sure, does this count as losing your virginity? There was a lot of unknowns for me, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out intellectually and not a lot of time feeling traumatized or feeling violated. I was told recently by my therapist that this is actually normal. It wasn't until later that I had to have some painful medical procedures in some delicate places that those memories started to come back, because I associated them with the pain and the helplessness. And I know that this experience forever affected how I viewed men and my relationships with men, but it was not something that gave me flashbacks, or very many flashbacks, until many years later. So it's not something maybe that is the most pivotal point in my life, as far as, it didn't give me PTSD, and I was already pretty messed up before this happened. But it is the one that is most difficult for me to talk about, just because I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just very painful, confusing. It was a bad experience, and it's something that I think I buried for a long time, which is maybe why I didn't have flashbacks. So, but we didn't talk about that, the first appointment. We did not, I didn't have to describe the whole event. I talked about going to the party and talking to my friend and all that kind of stuff. And then I talked about leaving the party the next morning and kind of having that realization, oh my gosh, what happened last night? And some other details surrounding the event. I got a little upset a couple times, but for the most part, it was a pretty untraumatic appointment. What I didn't anticipate was the kind of week that I would have after the appointment. And my therapist kind of described this in the appointment. She said, okay, you're in for a little bit of a rough week and you need to practice your skills, because what we've essentially done is we've removed the scab from this wound, but we have not cleaned out the wound. We've talked about it and brought it up into the surface of my mind so I can't avoid it anymore, but we haven't dealt with it. And sure enough, it was the roughest week I've had so far. Mostly I was angry. That's pretty much all I remember from the week, is just being extremely angry. And everything that was done to me, any interaction that I had with other people, I had this kind of overwhelming feeling of being violated, taken advantage of. And so even little things I perceived as attacks, as being unfair to me. I had a lot of kind of weird responses to people that were, I think they may have perceived as being over the top. I mean, I wasn't a total witch to everyone, but there was just this kind of this, I went into every interaction with this kind of presupposition that they were trying to hurt me, that they were trying to take advantage of me. And so I came in swinging a lot. I burned more bridges this week probably than I have since I started therapy. Just maybe 3 or 4 different altercations. And you know what? I'm not really as sorry as I usually am. Normally I'm like, okay, I needed to handle this better. I feel like a jerk when I do this. This is not who I am. I don't normally like to hurt people, but I've been so hurt and so angry and confused and stressed out this week that I'm finding very little guilt inside of me right now. I can't. I'm not even sorry. And maybe that's part of the victimhood. I feel like everybody's trying to hurt me and take advantage of me. And I hope that it'll go away. But right now, even though I know that it's not completely rational, these are my emotions right now. This is real to me. Being violated is real to me. And I'm reliving it more so than ever before because of having to bring it up in therapy. So my reality is totally colored by the emotions that are part of this experience. It's like I'm looking at the world through rape glasses. which I know sounds awful, but all of the emotions that I experienced in this particular event are just kind of like coloring everything. It's just like this background, you know. So all the other emotions are experienced through and with these other emotions. This is really, to me, where PTSD becomes very perplexing, where I can see that there's nothing I can do about it. It's in my brain. My brain is clearly messed up. And I have a lot of compassion for people with PTSD, other people with PTSD who do things that seem really stupid or crazy or out of control. Because it's real. It's real to me. And I can't change it. It doesn't matter how much I try to reason with myself. My reality is these feelings, and it's crazy. It's crazy digging into my head like this and finding so much dysfunction. I mean, I've always known that I was having trouble, clearly. I mean, I've already explained this, how I had such a hard time throughout my childhood and young adulthood, but it's weird digging in and just seeing the crazy. So it was a really tough week, and but I did make it through. I was kind of a nut job, but I survived. I haven't lost my job, you know, I haven't lost my family, and I made it through, and I don't have to relive that week ever again. And I think right now that can be counted as a victory. I mean, I'm trying to give myself permission to be messed up. And it's tough. It's tough to try to focus on just surviving. But it's doable, especially if I keep that in mind, if I keep reminding myself. Survival is all I expect from myself right now.